YouTube! Today I want to talk to you about We Were Liars by Lockhart, the most perfect book I've ever read. So this book had a lot of hype around it, and sometimes that makes me sort of nervous. In fact, it's kind of funny. The way that I actually first found out about this book is that months and months ago, the book publishing company that is putting out this book, or someone working for this book emailed me asking if they could send me a copy to do a review on my channel, and promised that this was going to be like the blockbuster book of the summer, that it was going to blow up and everyone's going to be talking about it. And I was like, yeah, I would love to review that. And then I never got a response, and that never happened. And so I sort of forgot about the book until it blew up and became the crazy hit book of the summer. So I ended up buying the book myself because I really wanted to read it, and everywhere I looked, people were warning me, don't find out anything about the book, the twist, oh my god. And sometimes, especially like in M. Night Shyamalan movies or something, like, you know there's gonna be a big twist, and you waste part of your journey with the content trying to figure out what the twist is and expecting the twist, and that just was not my experience at all with this book. I sort of read it cautiously, wondering, because people were like, when the thing happens, I kept waiting for the thing to happen, but not in a way that it took away from my experience with it. I felt like it was done just so masterfully that I don't even know how to explain what reading this book is like. You just have to do it. First of all, this book is written in this beautiful, like, poetic form. It's honestly more poetry than it is novel, but it works. It doesn't feel like pretentious. This book does it in a way that feels like the best way to tell the story, because this book is so in the main character Cadence's head that that's the way that it comes out of her head, and it feels so right. Also, it's got these little fairy tales intermixed with the story. It's really interesting because they start really vague, and it's always sort of, you know, the three daughters, the three bears, the three billy goats, gruff, and then it like sort of mirrors a situation happening currently in the novel. And as you go on, the fairy tales become more obviously about what is happening to her, which I really liked. I want to get to the part where I can talk about spoilers, so I'm just gonna wrap this up by saying, if you want to read one of the best books you'll ever read, not to overhype it, this is definitely my favorite book I've read this year. It definitely hits my top 5 books ever. I just was delighted every time I turned the page, even when what was happening wasn't necessarily pleasant or positive. It was just so good. It was just so good. I don't feel things the way that this book has made me feel them very often, and it was very awesome and refreshing to get to do that. So if you haven't read this book yet, please go read it, and stop watching the video now, because I'm about to talk about what actually happened. Okay, so first of all, holy crap. Holy crap. So I love that they give away that they burnt the house down before you know what's going on. I love that people keep asking her, is that all you remember? Like, what else do you remember? And in Cadence's mind, she's like, we burnt the house down. The dogs are dead. Like, what else is there to remember? So much of this book makes so much sense looking back, but it wasn't, when I was reading it, I didn't feel like there were all these needless things. It's funny because all of the little clues were done with such precision. I can't even articulate how well done this book was, because as I was reading it, there were like little things that stood out as like odd, but they had done such a good job of making this family seem so like weird and crazy that they didn't really seem out there. So the Sinclairs are this family that I hate. I hate them. Reading it, you know, you feel bad for them, and you like Katie, and you want the Liars to be able to be together and all of this stuff, but Katie paints them in such a negative light, and the Liars are so against what they stand for that, like, you're totally on board with her. When they say they're gonna burn the house down, you're like, yeah, that's a great idea. That's a really great idea. I mean, I did get a little uncomfortable when she mentioned that they drank all of the aunt's wine before burning the house down. But again, you just dislike the way that the Sinclairs are so much that, like, you're kind of on board with it being a good idea. And then it takes a while for you to put the pieces together, obviously, about like what actually happened, but there are so many things. Once you find out that the other Liars are dead, I'm talking quiet because there's people in my house who haven't read this book and I want them to be able to read it without being spoiled. Once you find out that the other Liars are dead, just so many things suddenly click into place. I thought it was so crazy when she walks into Cuddle Down and the other liars are pretending that they were playing Scrabble, but all the pieces are just on the floor. And I remember thinking, like, how stupid and like messed up do they think Katie is, that they think that she's gonna buy that they're playing Scrabble when the pieces are just all over the floor. I remember being angry for her that they were being so careless with their lies, and it just makes so much sense that like they couldn't touch the pieces, they couldn't actually play Scrabble, and that they were trying to give her little tidbits about like what they were up to, and she just keeps mentioning that they aren't doing anything all summer, and you just think that like, oh, they're just apathetic and angry at the family, no big deal. And the fact that like it's because they physically can't do things, and they're actually just trying to help her remember without overwhelming her by telling her the truth. And all of the times when Gat was like, I can't do this, we shouldn't do this, I shouldn't be here. There's such a tone of Granddad not liking Gat and not wanting him with Katie that you never once think that Gat shouldn't be kissing her or being there for her in that way because he's dead. You think it's because he doesn't want to upset Granddad. And all of the times that Granddad is calling her Mirren was this like really awesome thing that the book did that like threw you these bones so that it didn't seem so out of place that the liars are never coming to dinner and that nobody's talking about them. You never see them interacting with anybody. The only person who also acknowledges them that whole summer is Granddad, which at the time is enough for you to be like, well, obviously they're here, just they aren't being social. But Granddad is like just as messed up in the head as Katie, and you don't totally put that together. Oh, it was just so good. It was just so good. I also love the part where all of the aunts, you think that all of the aunts are just really in bad shape because the house is gone and because of their continued bickering and because of all of the drama of being a Sinclair. But I love how you realize that it's because they're all grieving for their children and the other kids. But I love the part where Aunt Carrie is walking the island at night. She's walking Beechwood and she's looking for Johnny, and that doesn't seem that weird. And even Katie asks, you know, the next day, well, did you ever find him? And Aunt Carrie just gets upset and she doesn't want to talk about it. And I remember thinking, oh, she must be embarrassed that she like can't sleep at night because the Sinclairs need to act normal all the time. But really she's upset because they're all trying to move on and grieve, and Katie keeps bringing them up as if they're still here, which I can imagine is one of the most horrible things after the loss of a child. Oh, I loved when Katie goes to that little swimming cave area with the other liars and the boys are up jumping off the rocks like it's no big deal. They're just having the time of their lives because obviously there's no immediate danger because they're already dead. But when Katie decides that she needs to do it and everybody just stops and freaks out and they're like, no, Katie, don't do that. Cadence, get down. And at the time you're like, she's just trying to like live again. She's trying to be alive. Let her have some fun. Let the girl jump off some rocks. But you realize that the actual situation is that she's doing this incredibly dangerous thing by herself where there's nobody to even save her if something happens. And it's good. The book is just so good. I don't think I could ever write anything that amazing. I never once considered that the others were dead. Oh, and I also loved how the whole book you're kind of trying to figure out why they're called the liars. And I kept waiting for the lying portion of this book to figure out what it was, to figure out like what made them liars, and the fact that everyone's lying, but especially them. They're lying to her to be there for her because she's, whether or not, I'm not really sure if they're ghosts or if they're hallucinations. I kind of imagine that they were more hallucinations, but they're lying to her to help her get better. And, you know, it felt horrible that they couldn't respond to her emails because they weren't alive anymore. And so they tried to make up for that in the ways that they could. And I especially loved at the end where she was so caught up in only worrying about the liars that summer. But when she finally remembers everything, when she figures out what actually happened and when she is totally conscious of what she did and what happened, that's the first time that she sort of remembers that there are other people on the island with her, that a lot of her family is still alive, and it's like she notices her younger cousins for the first time. God, this book was just amazing. This book was just amazing, and there's so many other things that I could say. I give this book like a 10 out of 10. I really loved it. I can't say enough about it. I'm like dying to go back and read it again to like see all of the things that I didn't pick up on, you know, remembering. Like once you know what's going on, there's so many things that you can go back and see were planted there. I would love to know your thoughts down below. What were your favorite hints, you know, once it all dawns on you, like, oh my god, all of that makes sense now. So let me know in the comments what your favorite hints like that were, other thoughts about the book, and that's it. Thank you for watching. Thank you, E. Lockhart, for writing such an amazing book, and I will see you next time.